Welcome to the Finishing Touch podcast from Superfici America. I'm your host, Bret Johnson. Each episode, I sit down with experts in the automated finishing industry to talk coatings, try schedules, emerging trends, and practical tips. Whether you're an industry pro or just getting started as a new operator, this podcast has something for you. We're here to share insights, answer questions, and help you stay ahead in the world of automated finishing. Let's get into it. Okay, in this episode, we are going to talk about the 5 major variables that affect film thickness. Coating thickness matters for a number of different reasons, for your finish quality, for your production efficiency. The first thing I guess we should do is explain a wet film gauge. It's the most common way of measuring film thickness in our industry, measuring wet film. That's the wet paint that's on a part. You can weigh it, you can do it a multitude of different ways, but the most common is the wet film gauge. So you've got different numbers here. 1 wet mil equals 1/1000th of an inch. So they're all different increments in 1/1000th of an inch increments. So then you just poke the wet paint, and the last one that it touches and has paint on is how much wet film you have on the coating. So the 5 key variables that affect your wet film thickness are tip size, line speed, recip speed, fluid pressure, and air pressure. Okay, so first we're going to start off with tip size. So the size of the spray gun tip orifice determines how much material can flow through the orifice, basically. So depending on the viscosity of the coating and how much you're trying to put on, you would choose a certain orifice of tip. You also have different fan patterns in tips. So depending on the manufacturer, they're gonna have different, nomenclature for how they describe the size of the tips, but this is what one looks like here.
So a larger tip size means more material.
Correct.
Smaller tip size means less material on the part.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Perfect. How do you determine fan pattern size?
It just depends. Some folks like a thinner one, some folks like a wider one. Wider ones are nice to get slower reciprocator speed on a flat line. Okay. But I have ran into issues where too wide of a fan pattern, it just doesn't concentrate the coating as well. So sometimes it's nicer to have a little bit skinnier fan pattern than like the max size you can get. That way it kind of seems to concentrate the coating a little bit in a smaller area, and spray it a little wetter if that's the desired effect. But yeah, typically folks will get the biggest one they can and then get as wide a fan pattern as they can and just run that reciprocator as slow as they can.
Yeah, and that's a good note that you can add on your notes for the program.
Yeah, you can
tip sizes.
Right, you put it in the notes on the recipe, and then that reminds the operator if there is a different tip size that needs to be used. Correct. It's right there in their face that remind them that's what needs to be done. Another thing that dictates the tip size is the coating viscosity. So really good rule of thumb: thicker the paint, bigger the orifice. Right, the more paint you want on, bigger the orifice. There are some coating technologies that like to be forced, for lack of a better word, through a smaller orifice to get a little more natural atomization. So in that scenario, sometimes you would go the opposite way. You would go smaller for a thicker product that needs that natural shear through that tip. But for the most part, it's going to be thicker paint, bigger orifice. More paint, bigger orifice.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's why people need to come in and test in the lab and dial in those tip sizes.
Yeah, it's really the only way to know. It's really the only way to figure out and confirm for sure that that's, this is the tip for this coating at this line speed for this wet film. And we do a great job Brian does a great job taking notes, being very detail oriented. We have good lab report spreadsheets that we're able to, once we get on site, replicate all of the settings that we figure out here in the lab. So technicians are, 99% of the way there, but on day one. All right, the number 2 variable that affects the film thickness is your line speed. The line speed is just the speed of the conveyor belts that are moving the parts through the line. So faster line speed, more production, obviously, but that is going to affect how many guns you need. It's going to affect the, tip sizes, how much coating you need to put on. Faster you're moving, the more you need to put on at one time to.
Faster line speed means less paint.
Correct, yeah. So if you're running, if you had changed the line speed, say if you're running, say 3 meters a minute and you went up to 5 meters a minute and didn't change anything else, you'd put less paint on that part.
Correct.
You're right, so.
A slower line speed means thicker paint.
Yeah, so and then most folks are set on a line speed, right? So they're dialed in the production demands that they run at 4.5 meters a minute, right? So at that line speed, we need certain variables to all fall in line, right? We need a certain reciprocator speed to be able to keep up with that line speed. We need the right amount of guns. Typically, the number is 1 gun per meter a minute. It's a good way to think about it. So if you're running 2, 3, 4 meters a minute, 4 guns works great. 5, 6 is kind of a gray area. You can get away with 4 guns at 5. 6 is kind of the point where it's better to move to 8 guns. And typically 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 meters a minute even are ran with 8 guns, just to be able to get that 50% overlap you need, right? If the belt's moving faster, the arm can only move so fast. You've got more guns allotted on those arms to get that overlap and to get the right amount of coating on the part. So 9 times out of 10, how you decide which machine you need is basically on the max operating speed of that machine, right? So if you have a production demand that says you need to run at 7 meters a minute, in that scenario, you would need our Magnum. So our smallest spray machine is the Mini. It tops out at 3 meters a minute. The next one up is the Compact. It tops out at 6 meters a minute. And then the Magnum is our largest one, and it typically tops out at 15 meters a minute unless you need faster, and then we can make some special adjustments to it. But yeah, so if you need more than 3 meters a minute, the Mini won't work. If you need more than 6 meters a minute, the Compact won't work. So most of the time, that's how somebody figures out which machine they need. Now, there are bells and whistles on certain machines that will dictate, why a customer might buy a Magnum instead of a Compact, but for the most part, it's basically the line speed.
Perfect segue into the reciprocator speed.
Number 3 would be your reciprocator speed. The reciprocator is the arm that is in the machine that moves back and forth that the guns are mounted to. The speed is, basically dictated by the line speed. So there is a minimum speed that you can run the recip at, running at X line speed, right? We have those calculations. If you're running this line speed, you won't get a 50% overlap if you fall below this recip speed. So there are some reasons application-wise why you would speed it up, slow it down. Typically, if you're going slower, you put more paint on the part because you're spending more time over the part. There's reasons why you'd want to do that in certain situations. There's reasons why you'd want to go faster and kind of, not spend as much time over the part. But long story short, the main thing that you need to worry about is running that recip fast enough to get that 50% overlap of your fan pattern. In my opinion, I like to run it as slow as I can. So I like to find that slow point and go back, a little bit faster than that. And
why would you want a slower recip speed?
It's going to be less wear and tear on the parts, right? The less times it goes back and forth, the longer it's going to last. It's going to be less turbulence in the cabin, less air in the cabin. And I just like to keep everything moving as slowly and gently as possible.
Less variables.
Yeah, less variables, less air, less movement and turbulence in the cabin.
What happens whenever you don't have the 50% overlap?
All right, then you're going to get the dreaded striping. Yeah, so people think of recips and they think about striping. They think about striping, and then they think about, like we talked on earlier, a halo on a shaker door, right? So if gun angles aren't right, if recip speeds aren't right, along with, in correlation with the line speed, striping is going to be an issue, right?
That's what we can dial out here at the lab.
Yeah, we decide, okay, we were running at this line speed, we need to run at this recip speed, and when the machines are installed, they set them up that way, and there's never an issue. All right, number 4 will be fluid pressure. The fluid pressure is the pressure from the pump that it takes to push the paint through the hoses and to the spray guns.
Higher fluid pressure means more material. Lower fluid pressure means less material.
Basically,
thinner finish.
Yep. So too much fluid pressure can put on too much coating, right? It's going to cause runs. It's going to create overspray. It's going to, put on too much film. The thing would mud crack or blister in an oven if that's the scenario you're going into. Too little is going to create a dry spray. It's not going to coating's not going to flow out right. You're not going to put enough material on, right? Typically, there is a target for wet film. Like we need 4 wet mills, we need 5 wet mills, and adjusting the fluid pressure up is usually the first action, right? If you need more material, more fluid pressure. If you need less material, less fluid pressure. There are optimum ranges that you operate in depending on the type of guns you're using. You're going to run HVLP guns, you're going to run, 10, 15, 20 pounds of fluid pressure, or even less. If you're running air assist airless guns, you're going to run 400 to 800 maybe. If you're going to run airless guns, you're going to run there and up. But yeah, it's key for getting the right film thickness, getting the right type of film, getting it to flow right, and getting the paint to lay down the way it's supposed to.
Is there a risk of running too much fluid pressure?
Yeah, putting too much material on basically would be the risk, and then that would, the problems with that are, adhesion issues, film breakdown, whether it's going into an oven, putting heat or air on it especially. You get mud cracking, blistering, you can get runs. We do a great job of putting coating on the edge, but if you're putting too much, you can run on the edge as well. So those are really the only issues.
How does air pressure affect our guns?
So yeah, the atomization air pressure is very critical. That is the air that's introduced at the air cap on an HVLP or an air assist gun. It's going to assist the fluid pressure in breaking up that coating, atomizing it, and creating the fan pattern that you see on the belt. Depending on coating, viscosity, technologies, you're going to need to use different amounts of air pressure, right? I mean, you could be running 2 different brands of the same one component water-based coating, and one could use 12 pounds of air and the other could need 20 just to break it up and atomize it. The viscosity is the main player in that. But yeah, so if you turn it way too high, you're going to atomize it too much, right? It's just going to kind of dry spray it. It's going to break it up way too much. If you turn it down too low, it's going to spray it really wet. If you turn it down really, really low, you're going to start to see lines on the belt, right? That's a key indicator if you need more atomization air. If you got little lines on the belt, caps are in the right orientation, everything is right. You got the fluid pressure you need, but for some reason you just have these little tails, like I like to call them, on the belt. Try giving it a little more atomization air. 9 times out of 10, that's what it needs to get rid of those. So.
It's kind of like the fine-tuning process, right?
Yep, and the automated systems can regulate that. The Magnum actually has that in the recipe itself, so if you're changing recipes and you got different coatings that need different atomization air, you don't need to remember to go change it manually. The recipe will handle that for you and change it automatically.
Perfect.
Yeah, man.
Is there one variable that you can adjust and not adjust the others?
There are at times, yeah, but I mean, for the most part, all of these variables kind of play off of one another. There are times where if you adjust one thing, you're going to need to compensate with something else. Like the fluid pressure and the air pressure we were just talking about. Sometimes if you turn down your fluid pressure, you may need to turn up your atomization air, but then both of those are going to cause you to have less film on the part. So you got to know what the consequences of the changes that you're going to make are, and there's times where you need to compensate with one of those other variables in that star pattern, I guess. It's not a triangle, it's more of a star of the different, the 5 variables of getting the right film thickness. So changing one most likely will need to change one of the others.
So if we have a specific line speed, what other variables can we change?
Yeah, most of the time you're not going to be able to change the line speed, right? If the production demands that and all of the entire line is locked in at the same speed, obviously. So most of the time your first method of action is going to be fluid pressure. Then the atomization air kind of plays off of that. How much pressure do you have? Then how much atomization air do you need to still atomize correctly and get a good fan? The recip speed is another variable that you could change. And then if you can change the tip size, if the viscosity dictates that, like typically there's typically 2 tip sizes that would work with the same coating. They'll give you a little bit different result, but usually it's not just one tip is the only size that will spray this coating. Usually you can get by with a couple different ones. So.
If you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to give us a shout.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've got all the tutorial videos online in real life scenarios. If there's issues with machines and you need service issues, you get a live person on the phone, Jacob, for better or for worse, and you get a great guy on the phone that's willing to help you and is going to really see it through. So take pride in doing that. We have mill gauges available if you need them. You can reach out to marketing@superficiamerica.com. We'll hook you up with that. There's some other swag too. Brian took all the hats, so anything but hats you guys can have. Yeah. So the main takeaway from this should be that the precision in all 5 of these areas is critical. Having them all dialed in, not just set to a certain number for no reason. There is a reason why you're setting all these variables where they're at. It's to achieve an optimum finish, and dialing them in here in the lab is the best way to do that. So in a future episode, we're going to troubleshoot some common finishing concerns that are out there. But in the meantime, if you're ready to take your finishing to the next level, please contact your local Superfici America sales rep. Go on our website, go on YouTube, watch all the tutorial videos we've got, like and subscribe. And until next time, this is the Finishing Touch Podcast, helping you finish better.